is big business. A big billion-dollar people business, whether it's a close play at home plate, the opening kickoff of a pro football game, an interception of a Johnny Unitas pass, the play is the thing. Whatever the sport, they all have the same magic ingredient. Winning performance that pays off in excitement, action, suspense, and money. Fabulous sums are spent at the gate with concessions. But the big payoff, with one exception, is not for the equipment. There is no winning product. When the play is over, few fans, very few, rush out to buy a Cleveland Browns uniform or a St. Louis Cardinal glove or a Boston Celtic jersey. As for the sport of kings, it's not really the horse flesh, but the $2 window that's the main attraction. One sport is different.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Has everything a sport should have, and more. The play plus the product is the thing. There's competition, action, excitement, suspense, and the winning performance of both the driver and his equipment. With 43 million paid admissions, auto racing is the second largest sport in the country today, second only to horse racing. As well as the driver. Wait, and something more. The millions of fans didn't walk or ride a streetcar to these events. They drove or rode in automobiles to see their favorite car and driver perform. Not to gamble. The only horses they're interested in are under the hood. The avid interest of the fans has created a brand new industry of buff books with 10 million readers who want to know what's happening in auto performance. Additional millions of motorists who never attend a race or see a Buff magazine get the performance story in the daily press. The automotive industry recognizes that performance-oriented people are prime prospects for their products. People who spend more for parts and accessories. People who read performance claims, those not proved in open competition, and those which are. The millions of fans that ride to auto racing events have a sense of belonging. They project themselves mentally into the cockpit. They can drive a car with the same name as their hero on the track. The name they see on Sunday is the one they can buy on Monday. When their favorite car or driver wins, their judgment emerges the victor. They are proud. They drive the winner. Let's face it, everybody wants to be a winner. And that is why the automobile industry must take that extra step that goes beyond the capabilities of the proving ground and stay in open competition as long as such competition improves the product and increases the sales. Remember, every car in that lot was bought by an auto racing fan.
Boy, how would you like to be driving that baby? Some thrill. But you know, before that pilot could fly from coast to coast in 3 hours plus, somebody had to invest about 1 million hours getting him ready for it. There's a lot of designing, testing, and trial runs behind every new innovation or new performance record. How do I know? My name's Carroll Shelby, and performance is my business. I guess fast cars have always been an important part of my life. I started driving them on dirt tracks down in Texas. And after a while, I worked my way up to sport car driving. That was it for me. The sport car circuits with their constantly changing conditions offer the challenge, the kicks I was after. Finally, the big win, Le Mans, 1959. And boy, I was sitting on top of the world. Shortly after that, I became a retired race driver and soon learned there's nothing lower than an ex-race driver unless it's a busted ex-race driver. About all I had was an idea. You might even call it a dream. It was to build a sport car that, first of all, more people could own and enjoy driving, and second, that could race under American colors and maybe prod the old established names a little bit. Having practically no capital, I started off, but it was a coincidence, really, that got us going. first, the AC car company in England badly needed a new engine. They produced a good basic chassis and body, but had no engine source. On the other hand, Ford Motor Company over here was just in the development stage of a promising new high-performance engine. Well, after a lot of talking, I got a hold of some bodies from the AC people, and Ford agreed to help me build a new sport car I call the Cobra. The rest is in the record books. The new Ford-powered Cobras beat just about everything in sight to win the U.S. Road Racing Championship in 1963. In 1964, we took our first crack at the World Road Racing Championship with a new coupe body of our own design and a race-proved Ford engine. We took our new Ford-powered Cobra across the pond. And for the first time in a long time, Europe saw American race cars winning. We didn't take the World's Championship the first year, but we sure gave Mr. Ferrari something to think about. And that's how it all started. Today, Shelby American is a pretty good-sized business. We're building Cobras for racing and for fun. And our coupes are getting ready for another season and another crack at those red Ferraris. We've got a couple of new entries in our stable this year. The new Mustang-based GT350 and the first American car of its kind, the new Ford GT. This GT350 is a racing version of Ford's Mustang 2+2. We set the cars up for racing by installing special components, racing shocks and so on. We're doing a lot of testing as well. Here's something else that we're excited about. It's this new Ford GT. It was designed and built by Ford engineers as kind of a laboratory on wheels to test new ideas and prove Ford's capabilities in open competition. We've been given the job of testing this new car and racing internationally. Road testing each new product change, proving out each component part, is almost as valuable to the manufacturer and designer as racing itself. This is Willow Springs Raceway, tucked away in the Mojave Desert. It's where we do much of the testing for our new cars. We have high hopes for all these cars this year. We hope that by racing with Ford, we can make this an American year. Very soon now, we'll be racing these cars against the best competition in the world. A lot of work goes into preparing the cars for each separate race. Each circuit's a little different. Daytona, for instance, has bank turns and Sebring's as flat as a pancake. So we set up the cars a little differently, changing spring rates and shock adjustments. Finally, you can't do any more tinkering. The cars qualify for places, and then it's time to put your reputation on the line. You might think there's not much you can do after the start of an endurance race, but remember, we run as long as 24 hours and cover up to 3,000 miles flat out. Cars and drivers take incredible punishment. Fatigue sets in, both human and mechanical. We have to make corrections during pit stops, and we constantly change the driving strategy according to the track conditions and our position with regards to competition. By the middle of the afternoon, the pace is just too hot for some, and the field begins to thin out. And now the durability of our engines and components pay off. And we're running 1, 2, 3, 4. Twilight, night, and round they go. And still, the GTs and Cobras hold up. Finally, one more lap, and then it's all over. And the big board places the overall winner, and yours truly is back in the winner's circle, along with Ford and two great drivers. A month later, it's Sebring, with the noise and confusion of a Le Mans start. And another long day starts. We're running well, even against the special modified sport cars. colors take their toll, and we lose a GT to suspension trouble. And then out of the north comes a downpour you wouldn't believe. And the cars are all over the track. They look more like motorboats than race cars. The rain finally quits, night, and the lights flash by. Into the 11th hour, and then it's all over. And the Ford GT finishes second overall, its second straight Grand Touring prototype victory. Well, we did all right the first couple of times out. The field of cars were very impressive at Daytona and Sebring. Now we're getting ready for the big ones overseas, Monza, Targa Florio, and Le Mans. In the weeks to come, we hope to continue our string of victories. It's a cinch that whatever success we find, we'll also find our share of disappointments. Motor racing is that way. It's a rich mixture of heartache and joy. For those of us who participate in this most exciting of sports, the Ford people, our crews, drivers, whatever the outcome, racing becomes a never-ending pursuit of excellence.
Today, road racing, which is an important but actually a very small part of the total sport of sports cars, is seldom conducted on open roads. Rather, many permanent closed circuits have been established across the country, each with its own special twists and turns, straightaways, and variety of curves. Such as this Road America course in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. At such courses, road racing enthusiasts, both participants and spectators, enjoy speed events consisting of an entire weekend of skilled driving competitions between various types and classes of sports cars. Here, for example, is one type of sports car, a racing sports car, a car designed solely for road racing. This Ford Mark II prototype is allowed to race only against cars in its own class, such as the high-powered Italian Ferrari and the Chevrolet-powered Chaparral prototypes. The American-made Corvette, on the other hand, is called a production sports car, a car that is designed primarily for street use. The Corvette races against such other production sports cars as the German Porsche and the Ford-powered American Cobra. 22 such classes have been devised for road racing enthusiasts so that every man, no matter what the size of his pocketbook, has a chance of winning. When a man brings his car up to the starting grid, he knows that he is competing against cars of similar performance capabilities. Aside from his ability to tune up his car, the real difference in the race lies in himself, in his driving knowledge and skills. If he goes into a curve too fast, he'll spin out. He'll lose valuable time while he waits to re-enter the course without endangering others. But when he knows to the nth degree what he and his car can do, when he takes advantage of others' mistakes or lack of skill, he has a good chance of leading the pack home. Road racing is exciting, demanding, satisfying. A true test of a man's ability to handle a car skillfully and safely under widely varying conditions. One such car is the Ford Mark II, winner of the 1966 24-hour race at Le Mans, driven by Bruce McLaren and Chris Amon. Here's Bruce to tell you a little about that car.
All right, that ought to get it.
Fine. Hello, I'm Bruce McLaren. I'd like to tell you something about this car. It's one of the Ford GTs that ran at Le Mans. Just exactly the same as the one that I drove that finished first. At Le Mans, there's a technical inspection. Everything is checked. Firstly, compliance with the regulations, but then all the safety features. Brakes, chassis, wheels, tyres, transmission, windscreens, fillers, the whole lot. Each driver has to have fireproof overalls. That's only sensible. And of course a proper crash helmet. And we wear seat belts and a shoulder harness. Thank you, Max. Come with me and I'll take you for a run around the track.
Twisting, turning miles at an average speed of over 145 miles an hour is not a typical performance for road racing. These are extremely expensive, all-out sports racers developed by Ford Motor Company in an attempt to win the World Manufacturing Championship for America against the best of Europe. A championship decided in 9 international races, such as the Daytona Continental in Florida, and the world-renowned 24-hour race at Le Mans in France. Many American individuals and companies have challenged European manufacturers over the years, but none has ever won in the topmost class of the all-out sports racers. But in 1966, American Fords won an overwhelming lead against the great red Ferraris of Italy, including a 1-2-3 sweep at Le Mans, the toughest and most challenging of the international races. Much to the satisfaction of road racing enthusiasts in the United States. Some of these young men may someday drive an international competition, where they are sharpening their skills in every race they run. Road racing is exciting, whether you're a participant or a spectator. But despite the publicity it receives, the fact remains that racing is a very small part of the total sports car sport that attracts so many people from all walks of life. The vast majority of sports car owners love to go to the races, but they have no interest in competing themselves. They participate in the many other activities open to them and to their families through the thousands of different sports car clubs across the country. The sport of sports cars is indeed a wholesome family sport, and a sport that is suddenly growing rapidly in America. Since the revival of interest after World War II, the number of sports car owners who were enjoying motoring for the fun of it has steadily increased, mainly through the purchase of foreign sports cars. By early 1964, there were approximately 500,000 sports cars in the country, of which only a few thousand were American-made. But in May of '64, a newcomer appeared on the scene, the American-produced Mustang, the first inexpensive, readily available sports-type car for which parts and service could be obtained in any area quickly and inexpensively. With this newcomer, the sports car field opened up. In just 2 years after its introduction, over 1 million of these Mustangs were added to the sports car population of the country. People who had apparently been looking at sports cars with desire found the American newcomer offered them the practical utility they needed, with the flair and appeal and characteristics of the sports car they wanted. The door was opened. New Mustang owners quickly joined established sports car clubs to enjoy the fun of their activities. Almost overnight, other owners formed hundreds of exclusively Mustang clubs for themselves and began to hold meetings and to stage Mustang rallies and gymkhanas and to enjoy the good fellowship of sports car owners at their own social events. Still others entered modified Mustangs in local and national road races and won championships. This obvious great desire of Americans to own a practical sports car quickly sent Detroit to its drafting boards. And now, based on the concept of low cost, easy maintenance, quick service, and family utility, these cars are coming off the production lines, opening the door for even more millions of Americans to enjoy the sport of sports cars. Looks like sports car fun is here to stay.
The post office in the town of Camden, South Carolina, population 7,000 or thereabouts, opens at 8 o'clock in the morning. Ned Jarrett picks up his mail early. He can't wait for the rural free delivery. The walk from the post office to the bank gives Ned a chance to start planning his day, and it's a long one. It also gives him a chance to stop and socialize a bit. Maybe talk a little politics or sports. It's a nice feeling to live and work in a friendly town like Camden. On a day like this, he's already read the morning paper, had breakfast, and helped his wife get the kids off to school. When he's home, of course. His business takes him away a good deal. Ned is general manager of Bawani Incorporated. His problems are the problems of any businessman. Labor, costs, financing. Often the last stop before going to his office is his accountant. Although his problems are the usual ones, Ned Jarrett is in a somewhat unusual business. At least, some people think so. Ned Jarrett's business is stock car racing. This quiet man is also one of racing's quickest. Now famous number 11 can be seen whipping by at NASCAR tracks from California to New York to Florida 10 months of the year. The National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing sanctions about 60 Grand National races for late model stock cars between January and November. Ned Jarrett runs in every one. He started racing seriously when he was 22. By 1960, at the age of 27, he had won NASCAR's Sportsman's Division Championship 2 years in a row. He felt he was ready, borrowed money to keep going, and moved up to the Grand National Circuit. He won 5 races that year. It was quite a beginning in the big leagues. In his second year on the Grand National Circuit, 1961, he won the National Championship. It wasn't easy. It takes a world of experience to become a good race driver. Like all great performers, he did it again. One of only 5 men to repeat the triumph. Ned won the national championship again in 1965, plus nearly $80,000 in prize money. His crew shares everything with Ned right down the line, and so does his family. He takes them with him wherever he can. And why not into Victory Lane? He's been in the winner's circle 50 times in 6 years on the Grand National Circuit. And he has finished in the top 5 nearly 80% of the time. Ned Jarrett is champion of all the tracks, large, small, dirt, and asphalt. He's NASCAR's winningest driver. The road to a 3rd championship starts early in the morning in Camden. The nature of Ned's business being what it is, he doesn't have his office right in town. If he did, folks would be dropping in all day long to chew the fat about one thing or another, and he'd never get any work done. Instead, both office and garage are located on his car owner's plantation, about 10 miles outside of Camden. The rural sounds of South Carolina farming country are a far cry from the packed grandstands and cheering crowds. Bondi Long owns Ned's racing cars, and Bondi supervises the pit crew, the same crew that prepares the race cars. Ned Jarrett, Bondi Long, and their 6-man crew are a team. Every day they're not racing, they're working on the car, maintaining it, preparing it for the next race. There's not only the thrill of driving, but also the thrill of building and setting up a piece of machinery so that it outperforms someone else's. It's a full-time, overtime job, 12 months of the year. Being a champion has its rewards and demands. In any given day, Ned may be called upon to negotiate with promoters for upcoming races, doing advanced publicity work, lining up tests of equipment with manufacturers, booking track time, selling off old equipment they've accumulated, checking over all the bills and okaying them for payment, making travel arrangements for himself and the crew, and just running a business. The bright spot in the daily routine is the fan mail. Ned finds time to read and answer every one. Ned likes people, and they like him. In a schedule that keeps him on the go, on and off the track, he still finds time to speak to more than 50 groups a year about highway safety.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson, and thank you, gentlemen. Certainly is a pleasure for me to be here today and to be associated with this fine group again. I had the privilege and the pleasure yesterday to speak to the university about the same thing that I'm going to talk about today. We had some 2,100 college students that we presented this program to. Now, you may think it's strange that a professional race driver is standing here talking to you about safety on the road. I can tell you that I feel safer on the racetrack than I do on the highway.
Ned, I think it'd be interesting to this group to understand what attracted you to racing and what attracts any man to racing initially.
Well, I started racing because I've always had a love for automobiles. I've always liked to drive anything I could get my hands on. I've always liked competition of all types.
Competition? Yes. In the fastest growing sport in the country, America is a nation on wheels. Upwards of 45 million people now go to automobile races every year, and everyone drives to the track in a car. These are motorists, here to cheer their favorite cars and drivers. Auto racing has become the second largest paid attendance sport in the country. Where else would an ambitious young man from the Carolinas go who has a love for automobiles and a desire for competition? The NASCAR circuit is the biggest, the richest, the fastest. Together, the NASCAR circuit in the South and Southwest and the USAC circuit in the North and Midwest have total prize money of over $10 million. But you have to be there at the finish to win. After 12 years, Ned knows how hard he can run his equipment and stay in contention. Attrition is the enemy, and the track lies in wait for the slightest error. A winning driver like Ned knows how far to put his foot down on the accelerator without breaking the wheels loose. Barreling along in heavy traffic at 275 feet per second, 170 miles an hour, if the back end comes around or a driver corrects a bit too much going into a turn, he's had it for the day. A spectacular accident, but not one single driver was injured.
Ned, you were drafting, following another car real close. Which driver has the most control over his car in a situation like that?
Well, of course, drafting tends to pick the speeds of both cars up when we're on a high-speed racetrack. It affects the handling qualities of both cars. The front car actually feels more stable than the rear car, but the rear car can cause movements by the front car by maneuvering in the turns. Of course, now when we get in our own private cars and start home from the racetrack, well, the situation is completely changed because we don't know the abilities and limitations of the other drivers, so we have to drive more defensively on the highway than we do on the racetrack.
Ned, what's the difference between the small dirt tracks that you race on and the big new super speedways that you have today?
Well, very definitely, when you're driving on a short track as compared to a large track, you would more or less let it hang out a little more. You could afford to drive a little more reckless because you aren't going as fast. Now, I guess you would consider myself one of the hardest chargers on a dirt track. Normally, our dirt races are only about 100 to 150 miles in length. Most of the dirt tracks are half a mile in length. But there again, it's a tremendous punishment on the equipment because most of these tracks tend to come apart or holes get in them and you have to just literally bounce the cars through the holes and slide them through the turns. It's not as easily to pass another driver on a dirt track as it is on a paved track, so I feel like it's important to get out front and try to maintain that position as long as you can.
Racing is Ned's business, but as a professional, he knows himself, the road, and the equipment. It's just as true on the highway. You can't win if you don't get there. This is an experience he likes to share with his friends.
Conscientious effort towards trying to be a better and a safer driver. Thank you.
More questions. This time, a professional one.
Ned, do you know how much tilt we had in the car last time?
Oh, I believe we had about 2 inches, John. Let's check the records here.
How does he want the car set up for the next race? Ned Jarrett's an expert at beating the track, but you've got to beat the competition, too. Men like Darrell Derringer, a sure fast hand. Junior Johnson, always the pace setter, the hardest charger of them all. Fred Lorenzen, with mechanic Jack Sullivan, is always the man to beat. Richard Petty, famous son of a famous father, likes to run in front. Marvin Panch, steady and consistent from start to finish. Tiny Lund, in first-class equipment, can go all the way. A.J. Foyt has a great finishing kick. In fact, any man on a given day can go all the way. To beat the best, you've got to outthink them, as well as outdrive them.
To the side. I think we should set it up about the same way we had it before because the car was going real well. So.
Ned Jarrett puts it all down in writing. He doesn't guess. He has a complete set of specifications for every setting on the car and for every track.
Shock absorbers, I think we should run the same numbers. In fact, you should just take this sheet and just set the car up exactly like we had it set up the last time.
Same thing. By the way, are you going to call home and moves today?
Oh, yes, that's right. I forgot about that back glass. We need that thing real bad.
Yeah, we need it. It's holding everything up.
Okay, fine. I'll call them right now.
Okay.
Operator, I'd like area code 704, please. 399.
Back, I just been talking to Ned about setting the car up, and he said to set it front.
When his crew sets up the car, they know precisely what he wants, and they give it to him. Every driver works with his crew in setting up a car so that it reacts the way he wants it to. Ned likes that extra security in the turn so that he's in control of the car, not the other way around.
Well, how did the tilt work out? You get enough wedge in this time?
I think so. It worked out pretty good.
That's good, then. Let's go ahead and record these measurements. How about the right front? How much?
Right front's 32.
Ned's cars are specially built and set up for racing by Holman and Moody, according to the rules and specifications of NASCAR. Holman and Moody prepare cars for other top four drivers. Within these strict limits, the car is then custom tailored to the driver by his own crew so that it becomes virtually an extension of his body.
You loaded it yet?
No, but I'm planning on loading 1/8 of an inch.
That should be good. Favor the right side.
Right side.
Well, I think you just take the slop out of the thing because this big bar, you know, it's real sensitive and we can't afford to run too much wedge in. I'm afraid it'll throw the whole chassis out of focus. So this looks real good. I think we can go with it this way and give her a run.
I feel like that'll do it.
Okay, good.
Once you've done everything you can to the car in the garage, the only way to find out what you've really got is to go race. This is it. Heavy, high-speed traffic. The toughest competition in the world, straining car and driver to their limits. Racing is a tough business. It demands tremendous concentration, physical stamina, top equipment, and know-how. Most drivers get to the top, if they do, the hard way, through a series of wrecks and heartbreaks, until they get to the point where they can handle a stock car. Because Ned Jarrett came up the hard way, he leaves nothing to chance where safety is concerned. A steel cage protects him from broadside crashes. The bars actually push the other cars away. Heavy-duty shoulder harness and seat belts keep him in his seat no matter what happens. A special headrest stops his head from snapping back. In case of fire, a driver's biggest hazard, a fire extinguisher mounted in the car sprays Purple K in, around, and under it at a flick of a switch. The frame itself is completely reinforced with steel roll bars. The driver is encaged in steel. Another safety device is a peephole, which the driver uses to check tire wear on the crucial right front tire, which takes all the thrust of the high bank turns. Jarrett's crew will complete the final assembly in 1 minute in this speeded-up version that you're about to see. Actually, they can do it in 10. Winning races is a supreme team effort. Victory, that is sometimes measured in split seconds, can be won or lost in the pits. The same crew that fights the clock in the garage gives Ned Jarrett 4 new tires, 22 gallons of fuel, a drink of water if he wants one, and a clean windshield, all in 30 seconds. They do this as many as 5 times in a race and over 100 times in a season. In a 60-race season, Ned Jarrett burns up 400 to 500 tires, 120 wheels, 100 sets of spark plugs, 50 engines, 40 ball joints, 60 coil springs, 40 distributors, 40 sets of brake shoes, 30 sets of brake drums, 25 fuel pumps, 15 transmissions. Ned Jarrett's truck carries enough equipment to completely rebuild the race car, minus the sheet metal. Racing is the toughest proving ground in the world. 3.5 hours on a speedway is equal to 100,000 miles on a highway. A race driver's life and livelihood depend upon his equipment. He needs the best of everything and lots of it.
The drivers in the 7-Eleven range from ordinary working guys to world-famous celebrities, all with one thing in common: the sense of adventure satisfied by off-road competition. 137 trucks, cars, dune buggies, and bikes awaited the starter's flag the morning of the race at the Stardust International Raceway outside of Las Vegas. The National Off-Road Racing Association, NORA for short, sanctioned the event. And the rules, safety precautions, and checkpoint procedures were carefully explained. Once the race started, there wouldn't be any place to stop and get directions. Each vehicle was required to have 2 drivers. Most wore protective headgear and clothing up at 1-minute intervals. Ahead lay 711 miles of brutal day and night desert driving. Anyone receiving the torturous lap stretched out 355 miles with 4 official checkpoints. Two-thirds of the determined entrants never saw the halfway mark. Those that did turned around after 14 to 20 hours of driving and drove the same course for the return and final lap. The desert course looked smooth from a distance, but Mother Nature played a cruel joke on the Amargosa Desert, as the drivers quickly discovered. The dry lakes were covered with up to 3 feet of talcum-like silt. The hills were strewn with jagged, tire-slitting lava rock, and the dry washes were warmed with 115-degree heat and covered with rocks, boulders, and axle-breaking gullies. In the dark, early morning hours, the halfway checkpoint began to fill up with dusty-faced drivers. Larry Miner and Jack Bayer and their Bronco were among the first to complete lap 1. In the morning, 34 competing vehicles were left. The remainder were scattered across the desert or were resting uncomfortably in the pits. Victims of broken suspensions, axles, wheels, or engine failures. But the race continued. One stretch crossed at 50 miles an hour in the first lap was so chewed up by the second lap that the remaining drivers were forced down to 20 miles per hour. Larry Miner.
I've always wanted to be away from other vehicles when I'm driving, completely alone. And then my mind isn't wandering on how close is that guy getting behind me, or have I got to go a little faster to catch up to that guy. I always like to be by myself, drive as hard as I feel is safe for me and the car. There's no set rule when to downshift or what RPM or anything. It's most of your moves like that are sudden, and you've got to have quick reactions. It's kind of like flying by the seat of your pants.
And then it was over. The heat, dust, rocks, and the night cold had been beaten by only 24 of the original 137 entrants. Larry Miner and Jack Bayer were the happy but weary winners. The 711 race is a long step from the original use of 4-wheel drive vehicles. After World War II, outdoor-minded drivers and their families discovered surplus Jeeps were an ideal way to get into the backcountry. Other enthusiasts began by camping out in trailers. But to get further away from it all, sportsmen began turning to specialized 4-wheel drive vehicles to get off the road into the untraveled backcountry or desert. As these people began to congregate, they shared mutual interests, and eventually, the competitive nature of man channeled itself into organized clubs. In Riverside, California, 4-wheelers battle each other in the Santa Ana riverbed. The Riverside 4-Wheel Grand Prix is an exciting yearly event in March that draws participants and spectators from all over the West. In this deciding race, Larry Miner of Hemet, California, matches his bucking Bronco against 20-year-old Joe Weber of Fullerton, California. Rigid safety rules cover the Grand Prix, and there isn't a driver here that would run this track without a safety belt, roll bar, and helmet. A minor in the fast time of 5 minutes and 56 seconds. And the rest of the drivers, they had a lot of fun. And that just about sums up the Riverside Grand Prix for drivers and spectators. If Riverside is fun, then the Mint has to be a far more demanding test of man and vehicle. Before the race started, all the entrants gathered in downtown Las Vegas and lined up for the parade to the starting line. Many of the tourists forsook the casino activities to look over the drivers and looked at the tourists, and almost everyone looked at the pretty girls. Indy champion Parnelli Jones was in his first off-road racing start, and he was soon to discover that the South Nevada desert waste was quite a bit different than the bricks of Indianapolis. Cars got the starter's nod in quest of finishing 400 cruel miles back to the... There just wasn't one part of the Mint 400 that was tough. The sand dunes, mud flats, rocky riverbeds, desert trails. It was all tough. 1/3 of the vehicles were knocked out of the race in the first 30 miles. Half of the field failed to make it to Ash Meadows, the first refueling stop 130 miles from the start. Parnelli Jones' Bronco slammed head-on hard into a deep wash, destroying both tires and the front suspension. But that didn't stop Parnelli. He kept going on the rims for another 11 miles before calling it a day, acknowledging that it was the toughest course he had ever driven. Half of the race was run at night. This was by far the toughest and most dangerous part. At the third official fuel stop, Jim Loomis of Long Beach, California, limped in with his battered Bronco, but some fast work by his pit crew, and parts quickly scavenged from Parnelli's wrecked Bronco, enable Loomis to get back into the race. Jim Loomis's patched-up Bronco barreled across the finish line to win his class and a good piece of the prize money. All the other drivers had to show outwardly for their efforts was a pair of blood-red eyes, evidence of the constant strain of day and night driving. Loomis's victory sign was held by Parnelli Jones' symbolic souvenirs of the race: 2 demolished wheel rims. To all four-wheelers, the Mexican 1000 is to them what the Indy 500 is to championship auto racing. In November, 254 eager entrants gathered in Ensenada, Mexico, for the running of the harrowing race down the primitive peninsula of Baja California to La Paz, Mexico. The field was 4 times that of the previous year, and featured film star James Garner heading up a Ford Bronco racing team.
The sport is growing by leaps and bounds. It's amazing, the spectator interest, and it's great that the average guy can get out and use his own head about whether he wants to go hard or whether he just wants to have fun. I remember the first one I raced in the 7-Eleven in Vegas. We only got 130 miles, and we felt like we had just as much fun as the winners. I think the activity in off-road racing in the last 2 years has, gone up so many times of what it was. A lot of people are finding the same things that I am, that I can race and still have fun and still carry on my regular business.
At 6 in the morning, the entrants were flagged off by starter Dick Keith at 1-minute intervals. The blinding sun directly in the driver's eyes was but the first of many hazards on the course. Each entrant was given a ticket to be punched at the 8 different checkpoints leading to La Paz. The fastest time, no matter when the start, would produce the winner in the different classes.
everybody has their own reasons for racing, I think. I enjoy the sport. As far as really getting down deep personally as to why I race, I don't know, it's to beat the other guy. It's just a form of competition. I've always been interested in competition.
The drivers left Ensenada over 70 miles of paved highway with oncoming traffic. When the road ended, the jarring, dusty Mexican terrain began to jolt mind, body, and machine. Some never made it past the second checkpoint. The field was beginning to spread out by the time leaders, Larry Miner and Jack Bayer, charged into the third checkpoint at Santa Ynez. A quick check of the vehicle, a brief TV interview, some gas, and Miner and Bayer speed into the desert waste, intent on preserving their lead. James Garner and co-driver Scooter Patrick, who started 59th, refuel and check their tires.
I don't go into anything that I don't want to win, or that I'm just, there's an old saying, nothing's worth doing unless it's worth doing well, and I feel the same way about racing. I think if I go in, I want to go in to win, to do it right, and it's just the way I'm made. So if I get into a race, I came to race. I didn't come to fool around.
Early in the morning darkness, Larry Miner and Jack Bayer, with one light left after hitting a cow, pass Hagen La Paz with a record time of 21 hours and 11 minutes. Hours later, the vehicles continue to arrive, each with his own unique story of a flat tire, or losing a gear, or missing a turn in the road. And to other entrants, some only a few easy highway miles to the finish. The race ended a long time ago. In the impound area, next to the fourth place finisher of Garner and Patrick and the Harvick Carroll third place finisher, is Dune Buggy number 77. 60 miles from La Paz, Bob Sinclair and Bob Anderson rolled but finished fourth in class on 3 wheels. Some finished without the checkered flag. The next night, 36 hours after the start, entrants continued to finish. And so the Mexican 1000 was over. Before next year's race, more people will discover the fun and excitement of off-road activities, be it competing in a California riverbed, speeding over the Nevada desert, charging through a Pennsylvania forest, or just taking it easy. Off-road has it all. Fun, excitement, challenge.